I want to talk about a difficult topic. And typically, this is something you wouldn't think that does happen, and that is startups and entrepreneurs getting scammed by those that pretend to be investors. We had a situation like that a few months back, about 6 months ago. We were introduced by someone credible to a company that was supposed to be a family office, and they were operating out of Switzerland. We did a lot of back and forth emails, conversations. When we talked to those guys, they seemed credible. They asked the right questions. They did the right analysis. They look at the details. It really seemed like they knew what they were talking about. Everything came down to a point in time when they did require us to fly to Switzerland to get the deal completed. And there were a couple of things that felt a little off, and that is where I think people really have to start paying attention because in the process, when it came down to an agreement, when it came down to, I think it was evaluation and a couple of very important items, they didn't really push back. They didn't really look at some documents. And I believe that's why it's important for you to have a tool in place where you can track who is going through your documents, how much time is spent on those documents, and all of those things. So that way you can know what's going on. If the investor is looking at the agreements, if the investor, potential investor is looking at the materials, if they are going and spending the time deep diving and doing their due diligence, then that is a good positive sign. If they are not, then there's a red flag right there. These guys, they wanted us to go into Switzerland. They wanted us to have a face-to-face meeting. They said if we close the meeting, if we close the deal, then they will reimburse the expenses that we will run into while taking the trip. And we were supposed to talk to somebody else. At the end, we didn't talk to somebody else from the team. I got his name, and he felt like it was somebody that didn't exist. It felt like there were a couple things really off, and I felt like there was really no need for us to have a face-to-face meeting and close the deal. We could have closed the deal using an online agreement, and then if they wanted to have a meeting, then that could have happened. But anyway, what I found out after doing some extensive research is that this was a typical scam. They pretend to be investor, invite you to a different country, typically in Europe. They want you to have a face-to-face meeting, and then they will come up with an excuse to create an advanced fee scam. Basically, they will tell you, "I'm going to transfer you with Bitcoin, but I need to have a proof that you have a wallet or something like that, or I need some expenses for the contract. You need to cover them in Bitcoin, and then I will do the wire." And of course, they will walk away with the money. I read a lot of cases that they will go from 50,000, 100,000 euros to up to 250,000 euros. That's what I found out that some of these entrepreneurs and early stage companies got scammed for. So always check the information. I did my due diligence on them. I discovered that there were a couple of registrations that were off, that the people that were pretending to represent the company, they didn't have the legal power to represent the company and sign agreements on behalf of the company. I did find out that there were some requirements for licensing for them to do some of the things that they were claiming that they will be able to be doing and executing on. And if you do the research, you will not be scammed. You have to be really careful. Just don't go by appearances. Don't go because they sound like a savvy investor. They sound like they know what they're talking about. Always do the due diligence and be really careful.